On this week's podcast, I want to talk to you about 5 ways to use your personal style to transform your self-image and confidence. This is the Stylish Wellness Podcast with me, Sarah Banks. Have you ever noticed how a new outfit can change the way you feel about yourself? Maybe it's slipping into a full-length halter-neck patterned silk chiffon party frock that you bought in that shop. You know, the one you always walk by and long to have a reason to walk in. Or maybe it's a sleek and sophisticated wool work shift dress that exudes quality, luxury and power and makes you feel like you've just walked out of the doors of Chanel. In either of those scenarios, you'll feel different when you put on the 2 different outfits. It's like putting on different personalities or experimenting with different personalities each time you change your outfit style. What you wear has a profound impact on how you think, and how you think has an equal impact on what you wear. Personal style is more than a reflection of what you want to wear each day. It's a powerful tool that can transform your self-image and boost your confidence. And when your confidence is boosted, it will give you so much more self-esteem and self-assurance in all areas of your life to be able to go and do things that you might not have done before. The way you present yourself to the world speaks volumes, not just to others, but to yourself as well. When you dress in a way that feels authentic and true to who you are, you begin to see yourself differently, and that shift can lead to greater self-assurance and a stronger sense of identity. Whether you're just beginning to discover your style or looking to refine it, I think this podcast is going to really help you on your journey to a more confident you. If you're lacking in self-confidence, I think it will really help you understand how you can start to create confidence for yourself in an environment where you feel secure in yourself without feeling too panicky or like you're about to die because you've got to go and do something really brave that you absolutely don't want to do. And I think if you already have a certain amount of confidence and a certain amount of style, but might feel a little bit stagnant in where you are right now in your life, or you want something in your life that you're not quite getting, I think sometimes these small shifts that we make are the shifts that actually can move the needle in other areas as well. So if you want a promotion, if you want to move house, if you want to earn more money, if you want to bring in more sales, if you want to change your personal life in any way, I think that understanding your personal style and the knock-on effect it has on your confidence and your self-esteem and how that has such wider repercussions for your whole life, I think you'll find this podcast useful too. Personal style is the unique way in which you express yourself through your clothes, accessories, and your overall appearance. Your personal style is unique to you. It's not about following the latest trends or fitting into a certain mold. It's about finding what you love, what speaks straight to your heart without words. Sometimes I think that when you find a dress or an outfit that you love, I don't think it expresses itself in words. I think that love and the desire to buy a certain outfit come from a resonance within itself, within that outfit, and a resonance within you that meets. It's like a feeling that you get from it, an understanding that, yes, I want to look like that. And I listened to a very interesting podcast. I think it was on, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And it was a woman, I think she was she's a scientist of some sort and to do with language. I'll find the details and put it in the show notes because it was really interesting. And she said, actually, language came last. And you know, in our society, we think everything is about the brain, isn't it? Brain, reading, words, language. But actually, in our society as humans, language came last. So we regard things like ESP, extrasensory perception. We regard those as perhaps not reasons. We shouldn't take confidence in those, and we shouldn't take our cues from those things because they're not seen to be as rational, say, as thought and speech. But actually, those things like intuition, like sight, like hearing, like this innate feeling that we get about something, those developed first in human beings before language. So I think that it's the same with clothes as well, that when you find something that you love, it actually speaks straight to your heart. There's like a resonance between you and the outfit, and it speaks straight to your heart. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. There is nothing more wonderful than being who you are. But sometimes it feels like a battle to remember who you are and to be you. And I think two mistakes that I see women make in their personal style are, firstly, abandoning the idea of their personal style because you get too busy and life takes over, and you think that your personal style in some way is like an add-on to life, like it's a nice to have, but not intrinsic to who you are. And then I think that the other thing that women do is they adopt other women's personal style rather than taking the time to develop their own. And of course, to me, from my perspective of the work that I do, to me that feels like giving yourself away, giving your soul away. Like, why would you adopt someone else's personal style? Of course, with social media being like it is and magazines being like they are, that's very understandable that women would do that, because you see a picture of someone, you just think, well, I'll look like her, I'll be like her, without taking the time to develop your own style. But actually, I think I love all this, the visual information that's available to us. I'm all for it because I'm, very stimulated visually, with my work as a clothes designer and general designer and creative. I'm very stimulated by all things visual. So as far as I'm concerned, everything that's online with Instagram and Pinterest and the magazines, digital and print, I just can't get enough of it. But I think the downside is we're searching for some sort of meaning in our life and searching for our own personal style and personal identity, and that we look to other people to give that to us. And that's a big mistake. That's just like giving yourself away. And then the other one, the first one that I mentioned, abandoning the idea of your personal style because you're too busy. It's like, really? No, you've just got to pull that back. That's ignoring yourself. That's ignoring the signs of yourself, and it's ignoring the development of yourself. So, yes, those are two big watch outs as far as I'm concerned. The first is abandoning the idea of your personal style because you're too busy or too wrapped up in the rest of your life. And the other one is adopting other women's personal style rather than taking the time to develop your own. If you want to develop your self-image and your confidence, you will need to know who you are and to create your own path. And a beautiful way to do that is through your personal style. So how do you go about using your personal style to transform your self-image into the living embodiment of all you would love to be, and at the same time boost your confidence stratospherically high? Well, the good news is I'm about to tell you. Firstly, learn to understand yourself. Understanding yourself and your own particular and specific needs is fundamental to creating your personal style. Now, there are various ways you can go about learning to understand yourself. The first way is journaling. Journaling is a great way to learn to understand yourself, because if you get up in the morning and you don't know what to journal about, then you need to get in touch with yourself. And that's a great indication that you need to get in touch with yourself. So journaling is a great one. And secondly, I think that taking a look in your wardrobe and seeing the clothes that you've got in there and whether you actually really like them is going to be a real indication of how much you understand yourself and how much you are dressing out of knowing exactly who you are and who you want to be. Thirdly, I think tracking your time, not every minute, every day, but I think if you tracked your time of things that you enjoy doing, that would give you a really great indication of how much you understand yourself. And I know that is one I'm particularly guilty of because I really enjoy my work. So sometimes, often at the moment, the things that I like to do that are outside of my work are almost abandoned. And this is a real mistake, because the thing is that those things that I love to do, they are fundamental to who I am. And if I'm not doing them, I'm not being fully me, and I'm not learning to understand myself better. So those are 3 ideas for learning to understand yourself. Then the second point is for using your personal style to transform your self-image, is to stay in touch with yourself. It's very easy to stop being in touch with yourself. Daily life, the to-do list, business, and much more can take you away from being centered on yourself and living your life in alignment with yourself. Stay in touch with your preferences in everything, and know and accept that how you feel and what you think is acceptable as what other people feel and think. So this is just a little bit about what I covered in the previous point, which is that the busyness of life takes us away from doing some of the things that we really enjoy. And in a way, if we were back, 300 years ago, where there was no electric light and we just had to make our own entertainment, which our parents would always tell us, was the good old days. It wasn't necessarily the good old days. But the good thing about it is that you did have to create your life. So you can either sit in a corner, huddled by the fire and hoping that everyone will go away, or you could find a musical instrument, or you could go and chat to someone, or if you had paper and a pen and a candle, you could write. So having to fall back on yourself is a great thing. And of course, in this modern day, I'll call them distractions. They're not always distractions, but there are so many reasons why we don't stay in touch with ourselves. And we really do need to do that. That's a fundamental human experience that we should not be throwing away. And especially, we live in the Western world. The chances are you're listening to this from the Western world. Or certainly if you're in not the Western world, then you're in the developing nations. And all of you listening to me have internet and electricity. And I think it's a sad thing that we get to that stage where we're developed as human beings. But what happens is we give ourselves away. That's such a bizarre thing. You would think on the surface of it that being in the richest section of the world, that we would have everything at our disposal to help us be the person in the world that we are most created to be. Whereas actually what has grown up is this just massive business of distractions that will take us away from being ourselves. So second is stay in touch with yourself. Thirdly is understand your body shape. This is something that I haven't talked about very much actually on the podcast, but understanding your body shape is really key to accepting yourself. I know that this is true because for such a long time, I didn't particularly want my body shape. I didn't want to be small and petite and curvy. I wanted to be taller. I mean, not necessarily hugely taller, but I wanted massively long limbs. And I wanted, instead of having a sort of curvy, rounded figure, I wanted a very athletic figure. And of course, no amount of dieting and exercise is going to change your fundamental body shape. It did take me a long time to accept my shape. I think on a practical level, if you learn to understand your body shape and your unique assets and qualities that make you you, and accept them and regard them as the greatest gifts ever, that really puts you in touch with yourself. Stop all thinking along the lines of wanting to look like someone else, or thinking that someone else's body shape is better than yours, or thinking that you can't live your best life because you don't have a figure like so-and-so. It doesn't serve you to think like that. Believe me, I've been there, I've done it, I've made the mistakes for you. Elevate your assets, understand what your physical shape is, and embrace it with total accepting love. Actively seek out being unique. Practice being you, the uniqueness of you every day. Everything about you is unique, and you can bring all of it into your personal style and use it to up-level your personal style and increase your confidence. Start small. Change your jewelry, change your daily routine, change your clothes if they don't suit you and who you think you are. Stop wearing clothes you don't love. Stop doing things you don't want to do. Start doing anything that helps you understand your uniqueness better. Whatever it takes to actively seek out being unique. Start that today. Seek Inspiration. We are surrounded by sources of inspiration: magazines, Pinterest, Instagram, podcasts, online groups. There is so much to be inspired by and encouraged by. Look out what other women are doing and how they are doing it, and create it for yourself in your own way, the version that you want. Look at other women and be inspired by them, but then create what you want for yourself. Don't try and mimic what they're doing. There's that great verse from, I think it's Oscar Wilde, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. So seek inspiration, but at the same time, seek inspiration in order to create the individual that is you, not to try and mimic someone else. These 5 pointers will really help in you creating the newest version of yourself. And I think that they're very holistic, very gentle ways of coming back to yourself and understanding who you are. Sometimes I think that we need a challenge of something really hard for us to do that really takes us up to the next level of who we are. But there are other times where I think a gentle approach and a loving approach are what it takes. And certainly for this podcast, I think that these 5 pointers that I've given you will really help you create the newest version of yourself, how you want to be turning up for yourself. So I hope you found today's podcast really interesting, and I hope it's given you some food for thought of how you can use your personal style to transform your self-image and confidence. And just take one of these pointers. If you're new to this kind of work, just take one and get going with it. And then once you've done one, then do another. I think that would be a good way of doing it. Alternatively, of course, you can do all 5 at once. But remember that your personal style isn't something that's throwaway. It isn't something that it should be an afterthought. It's actually really fundamental to who you are. It's fundamental to your identity, fundamental to your self-image, and fundamental to any transformation you want to see in your life. I can pretty much guarantee that anything that you want to do in your life that involves some form of transformation will involve you stepping up into the next version of yourself. And that will not be you dressed in your tracksuit bottoms and a t-shirt that's 20 years old. It just doesn't happen like that. It happens when we acknowledge who we are, and in a way we acknowledge the greatness of who we are, which on a day-to-day level, when we're dealing with family and career and commuting and shopping and everything, it's very easy to forget that actually as human beings we're all individual and all great. On a day-to-day basis, we just forget that. But it's really important to remember that we all have the seeds of greatness in us. We're all designed to be unique. We all have one song to sing, and we need to make sure that in our lives we sing that song. And if that happens because when you get up in the morning you put on your best dress instead of jeans that have got holes in and saw their best times about 15 years ago, then that is what you need to do to get your song sung. So amazing women, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I hope you're enjoying your August, whatever you are up to. And I look forward to seeing you here this time next week. Same place, same time. Bye for now.